What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking out this video. This is just going to be a fun one. We got a tree stump as the pedestal base for the table. We got tree logs as the feet for the bench. We have live edges. We have epoxy rivers. We just got a little bit of everything. Unfortunately, with this video, I did miss some content at the end. I got into a time crunch and I didn't really care about video, and I cared more about getting the product to the customer on time. But what I did in the time skip that you'll see at the end is I sanded up to 150 grit on the bottom of the table and then sanded up to 220 grit on the top of the table. Then I used Rubio Monocoat as the finish and shellac on the bench. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with a friend. I would greatly appreciate that. My goal right now is just to get 25 subscribers. So if you like it, by all means, subscribe. Hope you have a good day. Go kick some ass. Also, to go on this build, it's going to have a carved out epoxy river on the top. So I'm going to mark this thing up. Okay, so now that I have everything sketched out for how I'm going to lay out my river, it's time to get to carving. So to carve this, I'm actually going to use a 40 grit flapper disc on my angle grinder. And some people's probably going to say, oh, well, they make actual power carving disc for your angle grinder, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I don't want to spend the money on those right now. They're pretty expensive. This flapper disc costs $7 from the local box store, and we're going to see how it works. If it doesn't work, I'll take my ass kicking and I will go on and order the more expensive one. But let's see what happens.
Six and a half hours later.
Okay, so I smoke checked my first grinder while I was doing this carving. I don't know what happened, but it happened. Got a new one. We're gonna get this thing unboxed, get back to carving this river out. See you on the flip side. Alright, so now that we got this river carved out, next thing up is I'm going to clean out all the little wormholes and stuff and get that ready for the penetrating epoxy. And I'm going to mix that epoxy, pour it on the soft spots, and I'm going to use that same epoxy to actually put one coat in the river. Kind of stupid finger. Right in this area. Anyways, inside the river. So when I pour the actual infill epoxy, no oxygen can release from the wood and cause bubbles in my river. Okay, so before we pour the river on the table, I've got to make this piece of wood into a bench. It was the other half of the tabletop slab. What I did off camera was I actually went ahead and kind of rough sized it to width, so it's easier to plane and is not much to plane. So I'm gonna run this piece of the router sled off camera, and I'll join it, and then I'll get ready to make the back half, which is going to be the other live edge of this slab. So this project is actually pretty neat because it's just one big slab wrapped up into one just furniture-ish unit thing. But I'll see you on the flip side when I get done planing. It's going to be dusty. Okay, now it's time to pour the river on this bad boy. Since we've already poured a little bit in these holes up here-ish, in that area, I gotta take some 320 grit sandpaper, scuff it up a little bit, and I'm gonna use some denatured alcohol to clean all the dust off. That'll give like a nice mechanical bond between the two layers of epoxy. back. Instead of dowels, I tried using dowels. It didn't work out. I bought some 4-inch structural screws. I think it worked pretty well. So we're gonna glue it up, screw it up, hopefully not screw it up. And see what happens. Okay, so I did this off camera, but the tabletop is now planed down to its final thickness. It's cut to its final length. So now what we've got to do is we've got to take a grinder, and I'm going to grind down this corner right here to kind of give it a live edge look, because I don't like how this is square and the rest of the table is going to be a live edge. So I'm going to get my grinder out with my 40 grit flapper disc and grind this down. So these logs are going to be the legs for the bench. So what I got to do first is get the bark ground off, and then I'm going to put it in my planer jig to get them flattened out to height. And we're just going to make an absolute mess and have some fun. It's cold this morning. I'm from Georgia, so it's only like 35, 34 degrees, but man, it's pretty cold to me. But that's besides the point. So I've got the bench legs and the router jig. I had to make this kind of iffy looking stand, but it'll work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do both legs at the same time. That way they are the exact same height to each other. And I gotta get my fat ass on this workbench. So enjoy. Alright, as you can see behind me, I have the stump. This is going to be the pedestal for the table. I think it's going to be pretty sweet. I've kind of got my extensions put on here. It's a little shaky, but I'm feeling froggy. We're going to jump, see what happens, and we're going to get the same plane down to 28 inches tall. So what I've done here is I've laid out where I'm going to put my dowels for my log foot thing for the bench. So here, 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 and here are going to be where I put my dowels. So what I'm going to do to help me mark this onto the bottom of my bench is I'm going to use a simple little brad nail. I'll tack it in. I'm going to take a set of pliers and cut it. So then that way that will go into the bottom of my bench, give me a nice pinpoint location as to where I'm going to put these. So then what you're left with is 4 little identification marks. So there, 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 and there. And I'm actually going to circle these so I don't lose these and look like an idiot later when I have to come back and put my dowels in. Okay, so what I got laid out here is my spots for the plywood. The plywood's gonna sit in here, and then we'll screw to the stump over there. All right, so what I got now is I got to route out my spot where the plywood is going to sit. The plywood will screw to the tabletop and then screw to the top of the tree trunk that Michael is grinding on. Let's get to work.
A few inches later.